All right, so for this project, you should have gotten a sheet that looks like this, all right? And you have to decide if you want to do the hexagon or the flower side. Either side works, but once you pick one, you're kind of stuck with it, okay? So I think I'm gonna do the flower side, okay? And now I'm gonna practice up here my values. So remember, values are how light and how dark something is. Okay, so I'm going to start with a warm color. Now your warm colors are red, orange, yellow, pink, those kind of things. So I'm going to warn you right now though that yellow's probably kind of hard, especially to get started with. So I have this nice red orange I'm going to start with. Now, in the light box, we are barely even going to push. Like you're just super duper lightly coloring that whole box in. Super duper light. Remember, neatness counts. Try your best to stay inside the lines. All right, in the dark box, we are going to push as hard as we can because we want it to be as dark as possible. Okay? Be careful, you might end up breaking your crayon pushing this hard. And you might even need to color the opposite direction to get rid of all those white speckles. Now in between is our medium. Gotta get rid of those crayons there. All right, the medium is somewhere between the light and the dark. So this is normally just what you would normally color with this color, about that hard. Okay. All right, so I have a light, a medium, and a dark. Now the bottom row is our cold color. We're going to practice with a cold color. So that's like purple, green, turquoise, blue, and I have a nice purple violet right here. So once again, we're going to start with barely even pushing. Try to make it as light as possible, like it's a challenge. All right. And then over here, I'm pushing super duper hard again. You might break your crayon if you push too hard, but that's a-okay because you'll just have 2 pieces of crayon instead of 1. See? I have 2 pieces of crayon instead of 1 now. It's all good. It happens. All right. And then I do my medium. Remember, it's always easier to go darker. It's hard to go lighter. So if push comes to shove in your medium section, you can aim for lighter and then do another coat on top if it needs to go darker. Okay? So like mine's a little light. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. All right, so now I have a light, a medium, and a dark in cold colors. All right, so now we are going to move on to our color wheel, okay? So for this, you're either going to need a ruler or a straight edge. And so you should have gotten just like a straight edge piece of cardboard. And what we're going to do is first we are going to break either our flower or a hexagon into 6 sections. So for this one, we're going to go from point to the opposite point. And then on this one, you would do the same thing, corner to opposite corner, kind of like we're cutting it into slices of pizza. So you're just gonna line it up, spread out your fingers, and then draw that line. All right, line it up, spread out your fingers, draw that line it up, spread out your fingers, draw that line. And so they should all meet in the center. I'll show you what that looks like on this one as well, in case you chose to do this side. You can have one go right across the middle here. And then we're going to have one corner to corner here. All right. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. And now I need to break those sections up into patterns. So remember, I'm looking for 3rd grade patterns, not kindergarten patterns, okay? So let's say I start with stripes. That's pretty basic. So maybe, oh, that stripe got kind of kittywampus there. All right, so maybe then inside my stripes, I'll have like little stripes in every other one, like it's stripes within stripes. So that makes it a little bit more challenging for me to color later. All right, so each section needs a different pattern and it needs to have something to color, okay? So like, let's say I do the word art. That really is nothing to color because once I trace that, all I have is the big background. But what I could do is maybe like art with bubbles, like this. And remember, patterns happen over and over and over and over and over and over again. They show repetition, okay? So if it doesn't repeat, it's not a pattern. All right, so I'm just going to keep going until each of my 6 sections has their own pattern. All right, so now that I have my patterns drawn, I need to trace. Okay, so if you went with really small patterns, you might want to use pen or like a skinny marker like this one. I'm just going to use a normal Crayola marker. Okay, so, and this marker's not a good marker. Let's try this one instead. Okay, so now I need to trace everything. So if it was pencil before, it needs to become marker. And I have to be really careful with those little triangles that I drew because I don't want them to go away. Okay, so go through and carefully trace everything. All right, now that I'm done tracing, I need 6 colors specifically for my color wheel. I need red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Okay, now you might want to just double check them on the back to like make sure that your purple isn't kind of bluish or your red isn't kind of purplish. But if we look at a normal color wheel, we're going to notice that the colors go in a specific order. Now it doesn't really matter if your red is at the top or the bottom, but it's important that your red is in between the purple and the orange. So we're going to pick one color to start with. And I'm just going to start with, I'm going to start with my blue. Okay, so I'm going to do my blue in my fish scale pattern here. All right, now my goal is to get 3 different values in here. So I'm not going to color the whole thing in because then I would just have one value. So I'm going to actually color it like it's my pattern. So I've got my dark, then maybe I'll do this row in medium, and then this row in light. And then I have to go back to dark. And then medium. Remember, be careful when you color. We have those lines for a reason. We want to stay inside of them. And then light. Back to dark again. Because there was no point in us drawing a pattern and tracing a pattern if we're not going to color it like it's the pattern. If I colored it all the same thing, it wouldn't be a pattern. All right. So now, if we look back at our color wheel, I started with blue. Okay. So the spaces next to it either have to be green or purple. So if we look back at my color wheel, this one either has to be green or purple. Okay, so I think I'm going to make it green because then that makes my stars yellow. I didn't plan it that way, but wouldn't you know it, it works out awesome. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do my medium. And I'm going to do my little circles as my dark. That way I have smaller spaces to have to color really, really hard. And so I'm actually going to, because light goes right over that, and then I'm going to go really hard with that green in those little circles there. All right, so remember, each section, your goal is to have 3 different values: a light, a medium, and a dark. And make sure that you're checking your color wheel that it's in the right order. Now, if you do not remember what the order is and you don't want to have to go back to this video every single time to pause it, your sketchbook has a color wheel inside of it. Now, it doesn't have it colored in because it's for you to color later, but it does have the color wheel. So you can reference that, or you can just Google color wheel and it'll tell you what order they're in. Or if push comes to shove, just remember the rainbow order: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. All right. All right, so I'm starting on my yellow here, and I started with light over the whole thing because I want the background to be the lightest. And I'm gonna have these little circles be dark. The problem is, and you'll probably notice this, yellow, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between light and medium and dark. So you kind of have to be really careful and go as light as you possibly can with your light, so that you have the ability to then add in a medium and a dark. And it also depends on which kind of yellow you picked. So maybe if you picked more of like a harvest gold yellow or a yellow green, it might look a little different. But that all depends on what kind of colors you have. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in, I'm gonna kind of darken up some of these a little bit. But remember, yellow is going to be your hardest color. And so now I'm moving on to orange. And you'll notice my orange is exactly opposite of blue because they're complementary colors. They're always opposites on color wheels. Just like my red and my green will be, and my purple and my yellow will be. So if your yellow is opposite anything other than purple, something went wrong, okay? All right, so while you're coloring, you might be sitting there thinking, why does it matter what color the orders go in? Because maybe you're forgetting all the stuff that we learned back in kindergarten and first and second grade. But remember, the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue mixed together to make specific secondary colors. So red plus yellow makes orange. So orange needs to be in between them so that you know which two primary colors mix to make that one. So if I put green here, it wouldn't make any sense because red plus yellow does not make green, and you'll get really disappointed if you keep trying it and it's never going to make green. Okay, so that's why we have to make sure that everything's in just the right order. Now sometimes, like the color wheel that we have in the classroom, you'll see other things in between. And so like you'll have like a blue-green, but we're just gonna stick with the basic 6 for this one. All right, so I have one more section to do and then I am done.